Hello. Today is Monday, June 26, 2023. This is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker. And as far as the weather is concerned, now that we are officially into summer, here in this part of Kentucky, Lexington, we had thunderstorms on Sunday in the morning and the evening. So I basically kind of sat still. We know Texas and a couple other places have had serious weather conditions over the past few days. And in this area, in the upcoming week, starting today, the temperatures will be in the 80s, ending on Friday with temperatures in the 90s. Summer is here. So my suggestion is don't forget to hydrate. And surprisingly enough, don't forget to eat adequately because the heat can sap your strength, especially if you are out walking or performing other duties and such. So if you're watching the Sideshow with Theodore Parker on Facebook and Instagram, don't forget to like, comment, and share. If you're watching the Sideshow on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget the Sideshow coffee cup. Buy from me for $17 plus shipping and handling. Pay me through Cash App, $ TR Parker 1, all caps. Summer's here, folks. 4th of July is right around the corner. Another official national holiday. And I must say that I've had occasion to be out in the evenings here in Lexington. Usually my schedule is busy and I have various things going on, but special occasions notwithstanding, Lexington does have a nightlife. So let's get into today's show. Let's jump around a little. In Kentucky, I know basketball season is officially over per se, especially with the NBA and Denver Nuggets as the new national champions, world champions. Talking about the draft, Kentucky center Oscar Tshiebwe, first article I read said that he went undrafted. I believe it was Thursday. So some of the comments that went with it were that as a pure center, there hasn't been anybody like Oscar in probably 15 years. You'd have to go back that far. So I was kind of pleased to find out in following articles that he did agree to a deal with the Pacers, which would allow him to play 50 games in the NBA and the other games in the G League. So, Oscar has accepted the contract. Going over to Greece, talking about the world, Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis wins repeat election in early results. So he's in for a second term. Yellowstone National Park back in the United States again, here. There was a disaster where the bridge collapsed under a train that was carrying hot asphalt and it collapsed into the river. Back on Capitol Hill, Pelosi says there certainly should be a term limits for Supreme Court justices. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to go because it's always, to my knowledge, been an appointment for quote unquote life. A lot of judges serve up into their 80s, I think, as far as my memory serves me. So if this is just conversation, we'll see how it goes. But as it stands now, those appointments are for quote unquote life, which avoids political favoritism and things of that nature. Although each administration, when it becomes necessary, has the opportunity to select or nominate a Supreme Court justice. Speaking about another disaster, over the past few days, it's been in the news that there was a company that had built a submersible submarine that was built to explore the remains of the Titanic, which went down close in the Atlantic off the coast of Canada, probably. And there were 5 passengers on board, one of whom was the CEO of the company that provided the service. I'm not sure of his connection with the construction and plans for the submersible, but I believe it was 2 miles or so down. And as things went over the 5 days, there was an area the size of Connecticut that they ended up trying to search for these 5 individuals and the submersible submarine. It was finally understood that there were no more noises periodically. At one point, they were receiving banging sounds every 30 minutes because one of the persons on board, along with the CEO of the company, was a knowledgeable or skilled Marine person, and they accepted those noises as coming from that person. But now it has been understood that pieces of this submarine have been discovered, so those passengers are now presumed to be dead. The description is that that kind of level of being in the water, most of us think of things exploding because we're here on the surface, but there's extreme pressure underwater, and the deeper you go, the greater the pressure is. So it's been described that the submarine is like a Coke can that you put in a pressure chamber, and after you apply so much pressure, the can will collapse. All of us, I've taken a Coke can or some other aluminum can and just squeezed it, and it'll collapse. So that's what ended up happening to that submersible. And there were discussions about the designs and the construction of it and things of this nature. I have no professional knowledge of how all these things are done or what is the plus or minus percentage on how far down it should go, but I don't think anybody else is going that far. And the closest thing that I can think of, with no disrespect, is probably the picture of the Meg, where they had the submersible, where they're having difficulty with it. So, condolences to the family and friends of those people that lost their lives in that situation. Russia, here in yellow. Now, this has been a story to follow because hooked up with the war in Ukraine and Russia just trying to take territory, the Wagner Group, headed by Polsinski, I believe, without trying to really be aware of Russian pronunciation right now as I tell the story. Well, let me just kind of set it up for you a little bit. Excuse me. The Wagner Group is known worldwide for representing Russia in various other places, Syria, around the world. And they are, without, I would say, easily feared. And when I kind of came on the scene with it, they were allowing prisoners in Russia that were in their jails for crimes such as murder and most violent crimes to come in and serve with the Wagner Group as mercenaries. But a little background on it, the head person or the head man in charge of that group originally was in catering service in Russia. and he became known for providing catering to the Kremlin, ergo Putin. So as time went by, probably in 2018 or so, he somehow or another became interested in military operations. And so therefore he started to prepare himself and become knowledgeable about war and things of this nature. And from that point on, he was involved in most skirmishes that Russia had interest in various countries and locations. So it ended up that when the Ukraine war started, that he was one of those people that was brought in to engage with the Ukrainians. And a lot of the atrocities have been put down to the Wagner Group, but as things have a tendency to do, it was Putin that was actually charged with war crimes. And if he comes out of Russia, and remember in August they have this big conference for countries affiliated with Russia in South Africa coming up, that he would be arrested and generally extradited to The Hague. So the man in head of charge of the Wagner Group, in the middle of everything that's going on in Ukraine, he's claiming that Russia is bombing his troops. So in the midst of what he's supposed to be doing per se for his country, or for Russia, or for Putin in particular, his troops are getting bombed. So he says, wait a minute, he turns around and starts marching toward Russia. But he did have a proviso that if the generals in the south part of Russia would sit and have a meet with him, then he would halt his troops. And so that's what happened over the past couple of days. So they were decided because the military was the one that was supplying him, and he had been complaining about, supplies, ammunition, food, other things that they needed that they were not getting to continue to engage with the Ukrainians. So anyway, the person that he wanted to see sat down with him. So now it's been decided that instead of him marching on Moscow with 25,000 troops, a little hot under the collar to say the least, he left that part of Russia and went to Belarus, and the troops returned to the Ukraine, if my understanding is correctly. So Putin, directly or indirectly, was spared having a civil war, although the man was marching and taking things out until he got to see the general in Russia and headed toward Moscow in particular. So Wagner's boss leaves Russia as reports say U.S. spy agencies picked up signs for planned uprising. That's the situation. Which took me to another one, which I read. And this is, excuse me. And also those of you that have allergies, such as myself, pollen count has been high, although the air quality index has been good. So that's a opposite end of the spectrum situation going on right there. So now let's go to Honduras, which is South America. And this was unusual to say the least, and it's related to the Honduras penal system, and the city in particular, or the area, starts with a T, but it's a little bit more than my Spanish at my levels allow me to bring up by memory. But it involves MS-13. And so MS-13 as a gang started in the 80s in Los Angeles, California. Excuse me. As a protection for Salvadorians against other gangs. But as time has gone by, MS-13 has reached an international level, but particularly in the United States, on the level of organized crime. And their motto, besides tattoo, gangland, things of that nature, is kill, rape, control. So, and then if the other thing is, if MS-13 wants you, they will get you, and all the other comments that I am not privy to by not being involved in those type of things, precedes them. And I guess this is one of the few occasions when you can say that a group's reputation precedes them. So this particular incident that I'm going to describe to you happened in the Honduras women's prison there, and it involved MS-13 members and Barrio 18 members. So in the jail, it's a women's jail, and they're all housed together, but there was a conflict between MS-13 and Barrio 18 women, and a fight broke out, more like a riot, and 41 women got killed. So my understanding is these 41 women were from the MS-13. And the prisoners were able to smuggle in guns and a couple of other things. I think it may have been even a couple of grenades was involved, right? But the thing that really brought the attention was that Barrio 18 members, excuse me, I'm sorry, Barrio 18 members were able to lock 41 members of the MS-13 group in their cells and set them on fire. Set them on fire. So 41 women end up dead. And here's the thing. On some occasions, MS-13 will demand that a group that they are having conflict with surrender the person who is causing the conflict, and they'll consider it resolved. Well, apparently MS-13 wanted Barrio 18 to surrender somebody, and Barrio 18 said, no, we're not going to do that. Said no. And that is the result of their saying no to MS-13. At the least, I would say that was pretty emphatic. 41 women dead in Honduras prison. Moving back to the United States, Trump is visiting states as his trial continues. I think there were a number of counts regarding classified documents and pictures to boot, found in various places, strewn on the floor amongst personal items such as clothes and boxes, in closets, even in the bathroom. And there have been at least one other case where classified documents were involved, and I think the person was sentenced to 4 years. So we'll see how this one goes. Former president notwithstanding. Sorry, folks. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on to some good stuff, as I like to say. Human interest stuff. In Wisconsin, First black woman to graduate from University of Wisconsin-Madison launches state-of-the-art Carefree Comb. Following a recent report that Black Americans only represent 3% of people in the physics industry and only 2% in astronomy, astrophysicist Mona Short is making news as one of the few representing science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, in an inspiring way. In 2018, Short broke ground after becoming the first black woman to graduate from the University of Wisconsin-Madison with a bachelor's degree in astrophysics. The watershed moment came 100 years after the first black woman graduated from the institution. Another one. 20-year-old black woman graduates college, named HBCU Entrepreneur of the Year. Aaliyah Dua, a recent graduate of Virginia State University, has been named HBCU Entrepreneur of the Year in recognition of her outstanding work in promoting financial literacy and entrepreneurship in the Black community. At just 20 years old, Aaliyah has already made a significant impact, founding Financial Revolution, a social media platform that uses entertaining and relatable content to educate her peers on the importance of financial literacy and entrepreneurship. In Canada, our neighbors to the north, 12-year-old black girl becomes Canada's youngest person to graduate college. Texas, 14-year-old black girl from Texas graduates high school, makes history. She had a sister that graduated at 14 as well. And rounding the corner, Aveeno, a well-known skin product, announces new program for black female entrepreneurs. So there we have our young black women stepping up and stepping out and doing it in a positive way. With the 4th of July coming up, Lexington, this part of Kentucky, has their own rules about fireworks and such, what will be available. I think the difference here is that there's nothing that goes up in the air and pops off. So you just have to handle sparklers and things that you can throw on the ground and pop off. And that degree, just letting you know, if you come for some reason to Lexington for the 4th of July, what to expect. Although in years past, I have sat in various locations in the city and watched the fireworks. And then there's Thunder over Louisville, a couple other events going on. And speaking of Louisville, who doesn't like food? I know I've been in various cities where there have been various festivals and food has been an entertaining part of that. So now, for the first ever Louisville Street Food Festival, fun for the whole family, coming up in July. The first ever Louisville Street Food Festival will be happening in July, and it sounds like a blast. Who doesn't enjoy a good food festival, right? There are a lot of them out there in the country. You have taco festivals, barbecue festivals, donut festivals, and others that pop up throughout the year in various locations. However, Louisville will be hosting a new food festival solely dedicated to street food. And there will be lots of fun and games on top of delicious food. As far as my understanding goes, this will be toward the second half of July, and I think whatever dates are in the 20s. But food will be at a cost of $5 and less, which will allow you to explore your taste buds at the Louisville Street Food Festival in July. That's it. Hashtag